So hello everyone, welcome to another significant milestone in terms of clinical research history. Yes, today we are going to talk about the Belmont Report. It is one of the most significant historical event in terms of ethical consideration in clinical trials. You all might have heard the words respect, beneficence and justice. These were the three pillars which laid the foundation of ethical conduct of the clinical trial. Let's understand today what exactly this report is and what are the ethical considerations that have made a significant impact in how we conduct clinical trials today. Let's start. So in this particular session, we are going to understand what exactly is the Belmont Report. Then we will see the ethical principle that came out of the report, followed by the exact meaning of the word respect for persons, beneficence and justice, and how this Belmont report had led to application in today when we conduct clinical trial. So let's start. So when it comes to Belmont report, so it is the report which was released in the year 1978 and was created by National Commission for Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research. And this particular report was a direct correlation by various ethical consideration or ethical disparity that have presided before the year 1978. In 1932 to 72, we saw the Tuskegee syphilis study. So I have made a video, you can refer to that. In that particular event, we have seen that how racial discrimination was done, how ethical issues were not dealt with, followed by there was a need to make a law, and for that a very impactful report need to be created. Now the National Commission for Protection of Human Subjects for Biomedical and Behavioral Research was formulated, and they conducted extensive research and they thought about how this can be converted into legislation and National Research Act. So they conducted the research from 74 to 78 and formulated into that law. And on September 30th, 1978, the Commission's report were released, and there the ethical principle and the guidelines for the protection of human research subject was released, and it was directly published in the Federal Register on April 18, 1979. Okay, and this particular legislation has also been incorporated into 45 CFR Part 46, and this has laid a foundation for ethical consideration and how the ethical principle can be applied for the protection of human subject when it comes to biomedical and behavioral research. So this is the Belmont report. Now after the Belmont report was released, three fundamental ethical principle was laid over, and this were: first one was respect for persons, second was the beneficence, and third was the justice system. Now let us understand these one by one and understand exactly how these three principles have laid a foundation of ethical consideration when it comes to conduct of the clinical trial. Now let us see the first principle, that is respect for person. So respect for person means that treating the individuals or the clinical trial participant as autonomous person who are capable of choosing for themselves. Earlier in Tuskegee syphilis study or other Nuremberg trials, we were seen that they were not given the right to choose for themselves and not treated as autonomous. So in this particular report, it was mentioned that every person should be respected and to be treated as an autonomous body, and they should be given the right to choose for themselves whether to participate or not, or whether to withdraw from the trial in the middle also. And in this case for respect for person, they need to have autonomy, and even to the extent that they might not be harmed. Okay, so the subject, if they feel that they are in any imminent harm, or they feel that they do not want to participate in the trial, then they should be treated as autonomous. And the extent of protection from this report would also depend on the nature of potential risk and harm to the livelihood or likelihood of the benefit, which means that if the potential harm is more than the benefit, then we have to consider this particular subject safety, and we have to withdraw this subject from the clinical trial, or we need to think about what particular patient population are we going to include in this particular trial. The application of this principle also involves in the process of informed consent, okay, where all the comprehensive information need to be given to the subject, and they should be voluntarily be able to participate in the study and give their decision. And subject population, they might be vulnerable, and these vulnerable population can not only be a man and a woman, but they can also include any live human fetuses in pregnant women. They can be children who can be easily coerced, they can be prisoners who are under the protection of the law in the prison. So you cannot do unethical experimentation on the prisoner just because they are not able to live their life freely. As well as there are mentally disabled people and people with severe illness. So all these categories of potentially risky population or vulnerable population, they need to be respected, and if and only if they are able to provide voluntary informed consent, then you are able to take them in the trial. So respect of person means that the autonomy should be protected, as well as the principle of informed consent, where the subject voluntarily participates in the trial, that needs to be respected. So that is respect for person. Next principle would be beneficence. Beneficence means that if we assess a participant, then what are the potential risk versus what are the anticipated benefit, that needs to be decided by the healthcare professional. And always the beneficence or the potential benefit should justify the risk. Okay, so all the investigators or the study doctors are required to devise mechanism which can maximize the benefit and reduce the harm involved in clinical trial. For example, a particular participant is undergoing a treatment which is a molecule which has serious adverse event, but those adverse events should not be that much harmful to the subject, which does not justify the benefit itself. Okay, so the principle of beneficence has to be taken care of. And also in terms of public opinion, we have to take cognizance that the risk and the benefit may result from the novel medication product. There will be certain risk involved, okay, that they can be medical, psychological, social procedure, so we need to take care of that also. Okay, so when it comes to benefit, it does not mean only physical or pharmacogenetic benefit, but we mean that those particular benefits should also not harm any person's social life, any psychological harm that could happen to them. And when we design the clinical trial itself, we need to think comprehensively of the risk and benefit, and we must examine carefully before we get that particular protocol approved. And we need to find out also the alternative methods where the benefits can be sought from this particular clinical trial. So that is the principle of beneficence. Now let us understand what exactly the principle of justice means. So when it comes to justice, it means that all the people who are involved in the clinical trial has to be treated justly, and a fair distribution of risk and benefit should be involved in the clinical trial, which means that the vulnerable population who is going to participate in the clinical trial, for example, it can be economically disadvantaged subject or subject with limited cognizance, or they can be any students or any children which can be easily manipulated. So we need to ensure that whenever someone participates in clinical trial, they are fairly treated. All the treatment and the placebo are distributed randomly, and it does not have any bias when it comes to allocation of the treatment or participation in clinical trial. Just because someone is poor or economically disadvantaged, or someone who is a student or someone who is a minor, so we should not take advantage of the situation, and we should treat everyone justly when it comes to participation of the clinical trial. That is the principle of justice. And this principle requires the researchers to verify whether the potential subject pool is appropriate for this research, and the recruitment of the study participant is fair and impartial. There should not be any particular partiality when it comes to participation in the study. And this principle of justice has also been adopted by the US Congress Department of Health and Education and Welfare. And this Belmont report essentially laid ethical framework for protecting human subject and the guidelines impacted by the regulation. And this particular principle, it is essential to refer the document which is approved by the institutional review board. So whenever you submit documents to the ethics committee will not care that much about the molecule and its effect, but they will care about how many blood draws are involved, how many subject visits are involved, are we taking more blood samples, or is the subject mean harm more, or is the subject having any ethical consideration. So when it comes to ethical consideration, when it comes to thinking about the view of the subject, there the institutional review board are taking more cognizance, and this is because of the ethical framework laid down by the Belmont report. So these were the principle of beneficence, justice, and respect for person. So now let us understand what are the applications of the Belmont report. What did we get after the Belmont report? So first and foremost is the informed consent. The concept of informed consent and the ethical requirement and the legal requirement of informed consent was in direct correlation of the Belmont report. So whatever the informed consent we have today, it has taken its root from that report. Second thing is, when it comes to subject selection of the clinical trial, we are more vigilant now. And this is because of the ethical framework laid down by the Belmont report. Then when we assess the risk and benefit of the study participant, the risk benefit assessment, that also takes cognizance of the Belmont report. Okay. And when it comes to regulatory integration of the ethical concern, the ethical guidelines that are given by the regulatory to the institutional review board or the ethics committee, so that integration has also been directly impacted by the Belmont report. And finally, when it comes to medical ethics and awareness to the public, this report has also laid a significant milestone when it comes to having medical ethics and awareness in terms of general public. So when anyone asks you what are the application of the Belmont report, then these five are the most significant application of the Belmont report. So I hope I was able to help you understanding the Belmont report, and thank you for watching this video till the end. Make sure you like, share and subscribe to our channel so that we can reach wider audience and help them in progressing their career as well as spreading awareness about clinical research. And thank you for watching this video.